1. Record reflect we do have a quorum. Member Yeager, Member Onstad, Member Lugar, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is open forum, is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are or may not be on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or board and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. I see we have several members here. I'm just going to kind of go through the list. You weren't sure if you were going to come up or not. Is it Mr. Roenick? Mrs.? Is that? Miss, would you like to come up and speak?
No, I just want to listen, and then if something catches my ear, I might then like to speak.
We try to let that happen. You just have to raise your hand. So we'll see if we're able to do that. Sheila, is it Deegan? Where's Sheila? Sheila, would you like to come up? And would that be the same for Gary?
Yes, it would.
That Gary? Okay. There's two Garys, right. So that would be Sheila's husband that I'm referring to right now. Okay, and then Gary Sykes? Did you want to come up?
I do.
Come on up.
Let's get back out of this chair again. So I can't have any profanity. I have to behave myself.
We do prefer that. And Gary, I'm gonna add your name to the list, okay?
Gary Sykes. I live at 5710 East Viking Boulevard, Wyoming, Minnesota for 35 years.
Is this mic on? Can you?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, Gary.
Oh,
There you go.
I want to address an issue around your October 5th meeting, and it was where you were discussing some proposals on East Viking Boulevard. First thing I'd like to say is everybody wants to see East Viking Boulevard repaired, okay? On July 21st, we had a meeting right here at this facility, and at this facility we talked about what we wanted to do with East Viking Boulevard. And it was kind of a preliminary meeting. Everybody wanted to hear what was going on. They said that there would be a second public informational meeting similar to that one after we discussed with people what was happening in the neighborhood, and that was to take place in September. It did not. On September 28th, after not hearing about it happening, I came here and I talked with Kelly. Kelly said she'd do some checking, and she left me a message and said that the next meeting would take place in October. She didn't say what day. She said we'd be notified by mail. We said we'd be notified by mail. I would say that probably the October meeting is not going to happen because it's a little late to get a mailing out. So you've created an expectation, and I'm talking about integrity here a little bit. And I think that, when you folks tell us that we're going to do something, you ask us to go and talk to the neighbors and see what we wanted in that as far as the street goes. Most of the neighbors would like to see the street stay as is, but repaired. Okay? Most of them didn't come tonight. One of them said they're not going to do anything anyhow. They didn't have their second meeting, and several of them are sick, COVID, other issues are going on. Okay? So what we would like to see is we'd like to see the street stay with parking on both sides. For safety reasons, we like to be able to back into our driveways. 2 mailboxes have been wiped out this summer on East Viking Boulevard by cars getting clear over into those parking areas. Okay, so what's happening is you're taking away our safety, the ones that live there. No, we would like to see a trail, but not right down through our neighborhood, transient people live at that, at the apartment complex, where they have to deal with everybody that moved through, everybody that moved in, everybody that moved out. As they come in and out of there, they don't care about the neighborhood. We do. Okay, so our concern is one, why did the meeting take place as we said it would? Two, you guys have already had things brought to you, recommendations brought to you on the 5th that said what his ideas were. I don't know if you've done a feasibility on it yet. My concern is you know what? You guys have already got the money for the bridge. That's Polaris's interest. I don't think that you got the money for us yet. Okay? So what we'd like to see is majority of people that I talked to, I did talk to them, they would like to see it stay as is with parking on both sides because we need that safety zone. And yes, there's more than 7 cars parked out there, Mark, on a regular basis. Okay, I checked that out. So the meeting that Kelly was telling me about when I talked to her on the 28th obviously isn't going to happen. And I would like to know where's the integrity around these things. This is the schedule that I was given. Okay, do you remember this?
I do.
Okay. This was the schedule and this was the expectation that we had in the neighborhood. And now, of course, people say it's not going to happen. There was more people going to be here tonight, but these are the ones that showed up. A lot of them said, you know what, it's not going to happen anyhow. We put in a trail, it's going to require more maintenance. We haven't got the people to maintain the potholes now. We ran out of blacktop last year. Guys said that they had to go get some more. From a safety perspective, once it's cleaned up, nobody stopped those trucks. We have periodical type people coming through and checking out those trucks. Okay, those trucks are whizzing past us at that rapid pace out there, still shaking our homes, nothing's changed. But when you clean that road up, you're gonna find it go faster. I'm not sure if they're not the ones that decided it should be fixed. So create expectations, and then you don't follow up with it. What do people think of this group when we're gonna get together? What are we supposed to think? What are we supposed to think about these meetings? I'm done.
Thank you. What was the date that we were supposed to meet again? Is it on that sheet?
And I don't know how you want to address this, Mr. Lynn. There's probably quite a few comments that staff can make related to that. And certainly, you know, back in July, Mr. Sykes did attend that meeting. We did have some information that we shared with with the residents, right? And so, obviously, those are very tentative schedules at that point. And so, we still do intend on having additional public engagement. It didn't occur at the latter part of September, as we discussed. We did at the last city council meeting, for various reasons, discuss just some thoughts that we had related to the grant. And so there's obviously timing related to the grant and a lot of detail related to the grant that needs to be moved forward with. And so we asked council if they were inclined to move forward with an option that it seemed to be favorable for the residents, at least for the grant application, because there's certain information that we don't want to have to go through a grant application. We can't submit options in a grant application. And so we wanted to go through that, but we didn't want to go through, we certainly can, and that's not to say that we can't take a step back again to do that, but again, the timing wise, we're trying to be as diligently watching city funds as we can and not go through parallel designs, preliminary designs and preliminary cost estimates, when at least what we heard, we felt at that time that, you know, the option, the hybrid, was kind of the favored or preferred. At least, I'm not saying that was you, but I think that was at least what was viewed, at least by staff's point, as the favorable option. And so we wanted to make sure that we're not going down parallel tracks, doing appraisals for right-of-way potential easements or temporary easements on parcels that where there isn't existing right-of-way, and going through that expense for multiple options. And so I think, I mean, there's a lot more to it than what I'm stating here, but we didn't want to go through a parallel track if we didn't need to. And I think we felt comfortable that we were kind of going forward in the path that residents expressed their interest in having the hybrid option. Now, we certainly can take a step back if we want to include a feasibility study that involves both. It's gonna kind of slow the process down. We do fully intend on having additional public engagement on the process, on the project, and before the feasibility study is finalized and brought, for residents to come and comment on, we always have another opportunity for property owners to see the results of that feasibility study and comment on. But certainly, if we're looking at sticking to an existing roadway configuration, I know that the council has heard from not only the neighborhood here, but the community at large about walkability. What does that mean if we keep, the existing configuration, we still move forward with a trail or pedestrian facilities of some sort? What does that mean? It probably means more impacts to adjacent properties. And we have right-of-way on the first stretch where we could do that without having any impacts, but it might increase the impacts elsewhere or the potential need for acquisition. So the first section from Fenwick to, I apologize, I'm not prepared for all the questions that come up, but there's significant right-of-way where we have all kinds of right-of-way to work within, and we could still, expand and put in a trail if that's what the council had chosen. But again, further east we go, it gets a little bit narrower right-of-way. And so part of it is to try to minimize those impacts to adjacent property owners as well. We heard that from the people at the meeting as well. And so we just wanted, we felt that it was kind of a safe option, if you will, at least from the feedback that we received at that time. And Mr. Linwood, if I missed anything, feel free to comment as well.
No, I think to reiterate, I think in regards to the reason that many of the council members attended that neighborhood meeting, and I think that was the feedback that staff heard and what we communicated with the council was that there was discussion from some of the apartment owners and some of the one business that parking, there was a necessity to still have parking on that road. But then we also heard about the pedestrian movements and that there was a component of that street that did have sidewalk, but then one that did not. And they even mentioned an individual that uses a wheelchair that has to go on the street. And then I think the other component was with the actual component of narrowing that road. Usually, I think the engineer talked about, and Mr. Erickson, maybe you can talk about that. Usually with the narrowing, you have a decrease in speed, where a wider road, you have a feeling where you can get some higher speeds due to that size component. So I think the different options that we presented to council that night was kind of a summation of what we heard at that meeting. So, and like Mark said, we certainly can take a step back if that was something the council wanted to entertain, but I think it's a matter of that's what we looked at, and we talked at that last meeting in regards to some of that potential right-of-way acquisition and some of those different reasons that we looked at the option we did. But by all means, if the council wants to relook at this, we certainly can, or if you have questions or discussion for staff, we can talk about that.
And I'll add,
Mr. Erickson, can you remind me again how much that grant is for that road?
it's a 50% matching grant. And so part of that really, part of the things that had come up really since the initial schedule, right? We kind of had a kind of a ballpark. There's a lot of curveballs related to that grant. It's an EDA grant, not a transportation grant. And there's a lot of things there that are really unique. And I mentioned previously, right, the appraisals for potential property acquisition for temporary easements or permanent easements that we have with almost all jobs, right? Those appraisals have to be done with the grant application. So again, if we're trying to move as diligently as we can, try to be as competitive as we can, we want to make sure that we're getting this in a timely fashion, right? And so to not go through the design of multiple options, to not have to acquire title for all these additional parcels and get appraisals on different parcels at the time we have to apply for a grant, right? That means we have to have quite a bit of the design completed to really understand what these acquisitions look like if we need to have them. And so that's really part of the process, right? That is a little bit challenging with an EDA grant where this all has to be known in advance, and so it's not necessarily cost effective to go through multiple tracks, right? And so I think we were trying to narrow that down. And if we need to take a step back, we certainly can do that. It might mean that we leave the roadway as is, but we need to look at the trail, and it might actually go in a little bit further. And so if that's the direction the council wants to go, like I said, a lot of parcels have enough right-of-way to do that, others don't, and so we'd have to evaluate that.
Okay, and so I know that when we were doing Pioneer, we received a grant of $1 million, right? And we don't know how much the cost of Viking is going to be, because it's pretty bad. Viking is pretty bad, right? I mean, it's got its issues, right? And we're trying to work with that and the bridge and with some other things that are there. So that 50% could be huge. And
Certainly.
so I don't know, can you spitball kind of, or do we want to not do that?
Oh, boy.
You don't have to, I mean, I get
I
it.
would prefer
mean,
not
it's
to
pretty-
at this stage,
okay,
yeah, because
it will be-
it'd be really.
We don't want you to, yeah, no, I get that. So,
Yeah.
okay. So my understanding is this, that and I was there at that meeting, and I apologize for the residents that are here. I wish you were sitting closer, so I'm trying to kind of get all of you in my view. So, hold on. Let's try this way. So, all right. So I apologize because I know being at that meeting, I thought the consensus as well was that parking on one side, narrowing the road so people would go slower, right? That's kind of what we have talked about. And then I know that our overall picture of what we'd like Wyoming to be, because we're all aging. I'm aging, I'm not gonna be here, I don't know, however long. Some young families are gonna come in. So walkability, we hear on regular basis when we are doing surveys and that sort of thing is walkability. So knowing those pieces, I think I'll talk for me as the mayor, that we thought that that was the plan. I apologize for myself and staff that we didn't get that meeting in. So I will apologize for that. That should have been on me as well, that I was looking at those dates. So I personally apologize for that and for staff. If that's all right, that I apologize for you guys.
Yeah.
So we missed the ball on that. And as mayor of the community, it's up to me to apologize for that. So hold on a second, Gary.
I just want to make one comment.
Sure.
And I understand that, things do happen like this where you get, things get snafu'd on the schedule. I understand that end of it. But I was trying to locate the meeting, and that was through Kelly. The other piece, though, that I'm concerned with is when you came back after the information of the first meeting, it was kind of all over the place, but parking on both sides, because I was at the meeting as well.
Yeah.
And the thing, if we'd have had the second meeting, you'd probably heard different. But we weren't given that opportunity to say.
Yes.
And I felt like they short-circuited the system by.
I agree with that.
Yes.
By going to you on the 5th and saying, this is our recommendation. And I know that you guys were throwing it back and forth. I know it wasn't finalized.
Yeah.
But it seemed like, we went right past this.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think that as we try to go forward and watch dollars, because roads are so incredibly expensive. I mean, Pioneer itself was 5 million?
I think it was closer to maybe 2.5, I think.
Oh, 2.5?
It was
Okay.
Pioneer and some other peripheral
Some other
roads,
stuff
yeah.
in there, right? But it's expensive. We never expect our roads to be that expensive. So in trying to get grants and in trying to spend the least amount of money, as Mr. Erickson said, with the right-of-ways, and he talked, that was part of that conversation in October. So I think we try to watch those dollars. So again, we can have another meeting. I think we need to get that scheduled and get an email out, right? I know we're in the middle of our grant and trying to, so does everybody understand that grant that we're trying to get money for? Is that, it's a big, 50% of the project is a big deal, right? That affects everybody if we don't get that, right?
A matching grant.
A matching grant, correct. So by doing that, it saves money for everybody, right? So again, I apologize that we missed this, very much so. And we'll get something on and talk some more, but I do stand behind, and you guys can come and talk to me whenever, I do stand behind what we did come up with, that hybrid model, because it's also for the future, right? It's for when you decide to sell your house and a younger family comes in, it's for the future, right? So I personally stand behind it. I can't say the rest of the council, but I am always willing to listen, and because that's really what we're all about. So yeah, please come on up. Do you want to state your name? Just
Renee Rohrer.
Renee. Thank you.
Could someone just give me a synopsis of what the hybrid model was? I wasn't here at that.
Yes, I certainly can explain that. And just to back up one more step, we'd be happy to have another meeting, and maybe we can get clarity before we send that out. And maybe we can just, again, try to get consensus from the neighborhood that is in attendance that evening without going through the design of both options perhaps, and trying to still try to maintain, the costs and not go through this avenue where we're going through a feasibility study and costs, and it's a lot of work to go through the preliminary design on both and estimate costs. And so if we can avoid some of those costs and maybe just high, because we know the one option is going to be less expensive. The hybrid will be less expensive, and so I think we know we can get to that level really easily. But then again, just maybe as the property owner here just requested, is more of an explanation of what that hybrid looks like. And so what the hybrid option looked like. One we had an option with. I'm trying to remember now. The first option was leaving the roadway as it exists today, the same width with parking lanes. And then we wanted to evaluate potentially adding a trail on the north side and a sidewalk on the south side. And there's some limitations on the south side with terrain and existing driveways. And so we felt that we might not be able to accomplish the sidewalk on the entire length of the south side. And so we really wanted to focus on the north side. And then another option was narrowing the roadway just to 2 through lanes and eliminating parking altogether. And so that was really the second option. That really made much more flexible alternatives for pedestrian facilities, right? Because you narrow that roadway in, and you'd be able to have a trail on the north side and a sidewalk on the south side, and not really adversely impact anybody, right? We're able to narrow that up.
But there'd be no parking?
There would be no parking on both sides with that alternate. Now, the hybrid is leaving parking on the south side. Property owners on the north side could park on the south side. We have property owners that are in the apartments, I think the church and the art studio, that typically do have some overflow parking there now already. And so we felt that the south side would be important to maintain parking, but the north side could potentially be brought in and narrow it up a little bit. Mr. Linwood had commented about trying to slow traffic down. And I think there's a lot of studies that do show that the narrower the roadway, it provides a little bit more of a traffic calming. And that can be debated. I see Mr. Sykes, I can see his hands raised, right? And so I know that, there's a lot of studies that do show that traffic calming when you have, whether it's bump outs or if you have narrow roadway, people don't feel as free just to travel as fast as they may. That is a wide open corridor. And Mr. Sykes had commented that he did see people park on it. I haven't. I did this evening. I saw them, but they're all on the south side. But I rarely see cars parked out there, and that's neither here nor there. If property owners feel it's important, they'll let us know that. And I think there is some valid reasons that Mr. Sykes raised that should be discussed and learned a little bit more. But the alternate option was to eliminate parking on the north, maintain parking on the south, and then that trail on the north side wouldn't get pushed any further to the north. It would just stay really within the existing confines of where the sidewalk is and not get pushed any further to the north.
So in other words, I will lose one of my big oak trees that's been there for 200 years.
So is that,
Next to the sidewalk.
so that's next to the sidewalk? It's on the other side?
It's on the north side.
On the north side, yeah. So we wouldn't propose taking any trees out if they're on the north side of that. So it's a good question, right? I'm talking about the alternate right now, as it would say if we were to eliminate the parking,
Okay.
we would be able to keep the trail no further north than the existing sidewalk.
So
If
Mr.
we were to
Sykes-
add a trail,
Mr. Sykes has a sidewalk in front of his house. So that just stays the same. We fix it, so it's all level.
yeah, and I think the question is, I think, oftentimes you want to have a facility that can maybe handle a bicyclist and a walker. And so we look at an 8-foot bituminous trail on the north side and a 5-foot walk on the south side. I think on the north side, I could be wrong. I think it's 4 feet in width. But since we're eliminating the parking lane,
Yeah.
that could be consumed for a part of a boulevard and the widening of the sidewalk or to the trail towards the road. And so it wouldn't push it out any further to the north.
Okay.
That was kind of the thought and
Yeah.
trying to mitigate the impacts on the north side.
Doesn't have to come into my property a little bit because they moved it up right.
Yeah.
It's only this wide from my house.
The sidewalk is?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
If you put in a trail, have Rob come down and shovel it for me and I'll walk through.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, if you put in a trail when it snows, have Rob come down and shovel it for me and
Ross, who's Ross?
Rob.
Oh, Rob. I'm like, sorry, I wasn't hearing that clearly. So sidewalks or trails are not the responsibility of the property owner to maintain. And so that is also a benefit, right? That would be maintained by the Public Works Department. Yeah, so those are the things that we can further elaborate upon at a informational meeting that we have here. We can just take a step back. Again, maybe not go through all the feasibility and the costs associated with that, but just kind of back up and meet with the property owners again and try to get some consensus and understand what the implications are of all three options. And then again, hopefully get some consensus at that time. And I know that meeting was lightly attended, and I know that maybe we can look at having some people attend via Zoom if people are still a little bit concerned. I know that attendance was pretty light, and we'd love to hear from more. I commented on that at that meeting as well. That
You'd probably had them here if you'd had the meeting.
yeah, well, we struck out the first time, but we definitely will. It sounds like the council is inclined to take a step back and do that. And so we still, this is not something that we just eliminated that step, right? It just got delayed, but it did involve some things that had come up related to the grant. And so there's some things that we felt we were doing the right thing, but I certainly can appreciate the comments from the residents here that we can take that step back and set something up here in the very near future.
Perfect. Now, can I ask for, go ahead.
We could be notified.
You would receive mail notice, correct? Yeah.
Does that sound, are we on the right track? Does that help out? Okay, good. That's what we want. And I know that we have a really good reputation of having the residents involved. We've done a lot of projects, and having the residents involved and sending out emails and mail and answering phone calls and stuff. And so definitely feel free to reach out again. We'll get something scheduled soon.
Yeah, I would think that probably, maybe not next week, but the following week is kind of what I kind of envision. Maybe a Wednesday evening again is where we typically have had these. And just to kind of give you guys a frame of mind of what would be to come, is we would have that next informational meeting. And once we decide on kind of which option we're going to move forward with, we would then finalize that feasibility study. And then we would have a third informational meeting prior to the public hearing. We would bring the feasibility study to the city council. They would then accept the feasibility study, and we would set a public hearing. That typically is a month after they receive the feasibility study, just for notice requirements. We would probably have a meeting before the public hearing to share with you the results of the feasibility study so that you can see the results of the feasibility study, formulate questions so that you're prepared when the public hearing comes. And so there'll likely be 2 more meetings before the public hearing where you'll see the results of the feasibility study. And then we might be in a position where we go into design, but we might not be able to make a decision on moving forward until we know whether or not we're successful in that grant application.
And
So it does slide things back, and we're diligently trying to keep things moving, and we know that the longer we wait, I don't know that we're quite in jeopardy of construction next year, but the federal process takes a much longer timeline, and so we just need to work through that. And so I'm hopeful that we can keep on track for construction next year if the council inclines to move forward and we find funds, but it might be that it has the potential to be delayed.
Did you say you have to find funds?
We're applying for that federal grant where we would receive funds from that. The project may or may not be able to be sustained without that. And so we're trying to be as diligent and as fast as we can with that application while there's still funds there.
Are you talking about the one that's a matching fund?
That is correct. Yep, that is the federal fund, the federal grant, and it is a 50% match.
Mr. Erickson, can I add that we're very serious about this grant because we met with Congressman Stauber. He
Right.
came in to the city. We invited him to come to the city to help us with this grant. So he spent an hour with us here at the city and said that he would do whatever he could to help that process along. So we are in contact with Congressman Stauber as well. So just so you know that government takes a really long time. If I've learned anything in the last 7 years, government takes a really long time. And we all just wish it was a lot faster. But we're working on it.
Is there any chance that after you apply for the grant that it would not be given to you?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So we don't know yet even if it's gonna happen anymore.
We're certainly hopeful that we receive it. We will discuss internally financing and funding and our overall capital improvements plan once we know the results of that. So we're certainly hopeful.
Yeah.
We're
But
investing
if
a
we
lot of
don't
time and
apply,
resources
we
into
don't
it.
know, right? If we don't apply, there's no chance of getting it. So we felt that this was a grant, we had 2 grant options, correct? And we felt that the grant that we applied for had a better chance of us getting that grant versus the other. So, and then we asked Congressman Stauber to come and take a look at the road and discuss the different options and if he'd be able to help us, so.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
have a question.
What happens at the feasibility meeting?
Mr. Erickson?
So the feasibility study is a document that we prepare. It's a process that's required by statute chapter 429. It's where a process that's outlined for assessments to benefiting properties. You have to go through that detailed process. The city of Wyoming is much more rigorous in their public engagement than what that statute requires. These meetings right here are not required. The public hearing is. But the feasibility study is a document that really outlines the overall existing conditions, the proposed conditions, what you're planning to build, and it identifies the costs of the project and identifies what assessments would be to each benefiting property adjacent to the improvements. And so we have an assessment policy that we follow for that. And so when we bring that feasibility to the council, it includes the cost of the project and how it's to be financed, how it's going to be paid for. And so we need to include that information in that document. That would be available for all residents to come and view. I would present that at that informational meeting prior to the public hearing. But that is a document that the council decides whether or not to move forward with the next step in the process, to move forward with that next part, like moving into final design and plans and specification preparation. But again, that feasibility study is really the tool that's used for council to determine whether or not they have the resources to move forward with the project.
You know, I'm not sure what year it was, but when they did the south side of that road, my property side,
Mm-hmm.
on the south side, they only did half of the road when they did it. Do you remember what year that was?
I think that was 2004, 5?
2004.
Yeah.
And
That was with the water main construction that was there. They only patched what they disturbed in the roadway.
Theoretically, I think that was for the
It provides the backbone for our water system out for all of you folks as well, but for a greater growth of our community as well. But it also does serve Polaris, that is correct.
And I don't know if this fits into this meeting, but when Polaris moved in, they got a deal on not having to pay taxes for, I don't know how many years. And I'm wondering now, are they paying taxes?
So, Mr. Levitt, can you let them know what, they do pay taxes,
Sure.
but how that works?
Polaris is our largest taxpayer in the city of Wyoming. They have been for quite some time. They've always paid taxes. Originally, they paid taxes only on the land. Then there was originally, through the first phase of the construction, there was an abatement on the property. The last year of the abatement on the second edition of the property is this year. So moving forward, they are paying taxes. As of this year, they pay approximately $700,000 in taxes right now. So they are the largest in Wyoming.
The first year when they were up and running, wasn't there a 10-year time that they didn't have to pay?
I'm not exact, I believe there was an abatement on the first run, and there was also some Job Z with job creation, and I don't know, predates me a little bit in regards to how the first phase worked through that and the duration of that, but the second phase definitely was a 5-year tax abatement. So like I said, this is the last year of that, and that's approximately $58,552 from the city and $76,332 from the county. So that'll be back on the tax rolls next year.
Because the activity on that road, the trucks that come back and forth from Polaris, it shakes my house. And I'm sure their traffic has damaged that road.
Definitely,
And,
Yeah.
and I just wanna make sure that they're gonna have to be paying
They have to put out,
assessments
they
as
have to
well.
put out something,
They will be assessed as well.
Okay,
you know, I don't know what.
And as council is aware, we've had other projects as well where we've had roadways like this, right? Where we have a roadway that's constructed to a little bit different standard because there is additional use on that. We will only assess, our policy is we assess based on a standard street. So you're not gonna be assessed for any oversizing of the roadway, either thickness or anything like that. We have a standard street road section. And so that is the basis for our calculation and our assessment. Any oversizing or extra thickness of pavement for that larger use, whether it's a Polaris at the end or a Pioneer Road that's a cut-through roadway where it has more volume than just the residents that are there, you wouldn't be assessed any differently than any other resident that's had a project here in the community. It'll be based on a standard residential street.
When Polaris moved there, and, there was, I understood money from the state to build another road for those trucks to go south over to 22.
I can answer that question for you, because I did a lot of digging into that, and I finally got the answer. So, the money was supposed to be there. Governor Palante had, set aside some money through some grants and all that kind of stuff, for that road. When they figured out that that road could not go through, they took that money away. So that money was never given to the city, and never given to the county. So, that's all I know. I mean, it took me that long. I just realized, I just found this answer out over the summer because Gary and I have had this conversation a lot and trying to follow that money. And I was fortunate enough to, yeah, so we never did, the city did never get it. What's that?
Somebody got their hands greased.
Yeah, it wasn't us and it wasn't the county, so,
Is it environmental?
I think the piece of my understanding that through the due diligence we've done, I guess predates myself again, is essentially that the feasibility for the road that was done due to the wetlands and due to the Carlos Avery there, that it was not feasible and it far outweighed the amount of grant money that was received. So that's why there was a grant, but since it was never utilized, the city never received it. So that's my understanding of what happened to those dollars.
so, yeah. All right, we do need to
Council
give a-
members, you just do need a consensus though on this, if this
Oh.
is what you want to do. I know we haven't heard from our other members on this.
All right, so, Member Luker?
You mean in terms of hosting another meeting?
If we want
Yeah.
to take that step back on what we talked about.
Right, and I think it's a reasonable thing to do. I really don't want to lose the opportunity to mitigate some of that some of the burden, the financial burden of the project. So if we can do that and not jeopardize that, I am all for it.
Okay, Member Onstead?
I feel the same way, that I want to make sure that we get the right finished project that is beneficial to most people at a cost that's reasonable.
All right, and Member Yeager?
I would like to see another public meeting take place. I would also prefer to see it within the timeline so that we can get the grant and construction going next year too. So if it has to be done ASAP, so be it.
We will do that.
Yep. All right,
We're good, Lisa.
Okay.
Just have one last comment, and I thank everybody for their input today. One thing I want to comment on is, I called Rob Lindwood last Friday, and he and I had a very robust conversation where he alluded to the fact that I was a bit of a public nuisance to you folks. I would like to have a meeting with you and Rob sometime in the future.
Oh, dear.
You guys can put one together and go find out what kind of a public nuisance I really am.
Yep, we'll definitely can get that scheduled, so, yeah.
For the record, I never referred to anyone as a public nuisance, Mr. Sykes. I wouldn't use that term, thank you though.
We'll discuss it. You said that I complain more than anybody.
And, okay, so we'll get that meeting together, and maybe Mr. Lunan needs to be available as well, so we can get that scheduled. So we'll have our attorney there as well, Mr. Sykes. I think it's important.
It probably won't take very long, but I
Okay.
think that we need to let the dust down and see if we can't find out what's going on.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get something set up with the four of us.
Very good.
Yeah,
Appreciate
so,
it.
all right, thank you so much. We're gonna move on to the approval of minutes, which is number 1. Consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for October 5th, 2021. If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Luger. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstead. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 2, consider approving the minutes of the work session meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for October 5th, 2021. If there are no comments or questions, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
First motion is by Member Luger. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Is there anybody who wishes to pull an item from the consent agenda?
Pull number 7, please.
We'll pull number 7. Anyone else? All right, so we need a motion to approve 3, 4, 5, and 6.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Luger. Do we have a second?
So moved.
We have a second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 7, accept the resignation of Tom DeBazillion. Did I say that right? No. From Thomas.
DeBilson.
There, thank you. And approve the posting of the building inspector position. All right, your questions? Member Yeager.
I am sad to see Mr.
DeBilson.
Thank you.
We'll just go by Tom.
Yeah, I'm sad to see Tom go, but this is a position that I had questioned whether we needed it back in a work session a couple months ago. And if you need a suggestion to cut the budget, this is one where if we don't replace the position, we can use it to do budget cuts.
So that wasn't a question, that was a statement then?
Well, yeah.
Okay. How much is the position? What's the salary?
The range on that?
The range goes up to $34.69 an hour, and I can do a quick.
And so it wouldn't, if it was, what is that quick math?
Give me 1 second.
70,000.
About 70,000?
Actually,
Okay.
59,363 to 72,155
Okay,
plus
so,
change.
okay, I'm speaking, sorry. So,
Yes.
basically then it wouldn't really put a dent, not even a 1% dent in the budget?
Comes down to you talk about, I guess, levels of services that the council is comfortable giving to the
Providing.
community and providing to our homeowners and builders. Currently, we're about 2 weeks out on building inspections. The building department is approaching almost 30 new homes this year, and we'll probably have record revenue. So I guess it's up to the city council in regards to what kind of services you want to provide a resident. So I think that would really be a discussion as part of this as well.
Okay. All right. With that, I guess we'll need a motion to approve the resignation and approve the posting of the building inspector position. I will make that first motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So approved. Acknowledge receipts of reports of officers, boards, commissions, and department heads. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 on our agenda. Does anybody wish to pull an acknowledgement? No? All right. Number 13 on our agenda is the 2020 annual report. Ms. Dumas, are you doing that one? Oh, good, because I have lots of highlights. All right, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. You have before you an annual report that outlines many of the accomplishments and work that the city provided residents in 2020, as well as budget information from 2021. The annual report really helps to help residents and other community partners to better understand the work of the city and understand what their tax dollars are actually used for. The data can also be used to show some trends over time of how this year's budget and this year's activities fit into the history of the work that we have done as a community. This document also provides valuable insights that the city can use in communication with prospective contractors, consultants, applicants for jobs, residents, and other people looking to get a better picture of Wyoming and the city of Wyoming. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Perfect. All right, I just want to highlight a couple things first. So first of all, in here it says the 2020 temporary and part-time employees and volunteers. This list is really, really long. So just briefly, Wyoming firefighters, Wyoming police reserves, public works, part-time staff, Wyoming election judges, Park Advisory Commission, Economic Development Authority, and the Planning Commission. So first of all, I just want to give a thank you out to everybody who has volunteered within our community to make it work. I wanted to point out that Wyoming ranks 22nd out of 115 cities on the Star Tribune's 2020 Hot Housing Index. That's pretty cool. I mean, that shows, what do we have, 4 or 5 developments in the works right now? I want to say 4 or 5, something like that. So that's where that trend is coming from, right? So I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out property tax comparison to other cities. We're right in the middle, which is great, right? So it's kind of nice. I know people talk about Chisago County being really high, but in this list is Washington County, Chisago County, Isanti County, and we're just kind of right in that middle. So, and I know that we have our budget and stuff, our levy, we've had it done the last 5-6 years, if I'm saying that correctly. So, and the other thing I wanted to point out, which I think is pretty exciting, the population in Wyoming is estimated to be 8,237 residents. So, and we only have out of that 27 full-time employees. So we're doing really well, and that's a lot of residents. So we're growing, and we're going to continue to grow. So with that, Member Yeager, do you have any questions or comments?
I would ask on the administration page, we do Park Advisory Commission staffing, Economic Development Authority staffing. Do we also do Planning Commission staffing?
Planning Commission staffing is referenced under the building and zoning.
Okay, and we do City Council staffing?
Yes. Is under administration.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, Member Onstad?
I'd like to thank all the people that volunteer for the city. It's what helps make the city run properly. Without them, we can't do it.
Especially the fire department, right?
Oh, yes.
So, and all our committees. All right, and Member Luker?
No, I echo all those sentiments, and I'm wondering, does this get posted then on the website?
Correct.
Because I think it's a great informational document, too.
A lot of great information in there. That was just, how many pages is it? I mean, it was when you guys put it together, it looks really good, so appreciate that. All right, I think that, we have no old business, we have no new business, so we're gonna go to council reports. So let's start with Member Yeager.
Okay, I attended the Sewer Commission meeting, and at the meeting, the plant is running really well. It continues to run well. The projects the capital projects for this year are nearing completion. We had bought a new generator. Will take about 20 weeks to get here. And I guess we'll be using the Sewer Commission will be borrowing the city's generator for that time.
They'll be renting that generator, to make that clear.
Okay, cool. And we discussed the CIP and Phase 3 projects, and happy to say that the projects cost less than what they were originally proposed at. Like the Sewer Commission had gone for a loan of about $1 million, and these projects are coming in at somewhere between $500,000 and $592,000. And some of that is the benefits of switching over to Veolia, the outside contractor, to run the sewer plant. They become more efficient. And they found projects that could be done in maintenance, projects that they can get a better price to do it. There was one project where the original price was $300,000 and they came in under $200,000. So that's been a benefit, and yes. And that's basically that's the Sewer Commission meeting. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for speaking and bringing your concerns about East Viking to our attention. And thank you all in the little camera for watching.
All right, Member Onstad.
I attended the Lions Club bingo at the Lions Park 2 weeks ago and had a blast, a lot of fun, played some bingo, and met a lot of people in the community. Fun to see people out enjoying that beautiful park on a great day. I attended the Planning Commission meeting last week and I gotta make sure I say this right, intercultural development and inclusivity training last week. And we're having another class tomorrow. It's been interesting.
All right, thank you. Member Luger?
I also attended the training last week, and that's my report, and I appreciate everyone coming out and attending and watching.
Thank you. I attended the Planning Commission meeting, the EDA meeting, the Joint Sewer meeting, which Member Yeager has gone over, also the training. And then I would just like to say if you're interested in listening to the League of Minnesota podcast, I did a podcast with the League of Minnesota on the importance of words. So you can find that at the League of Minnesota Cities website on that. So pretty excited about that. And with that, we would like to thank Kelly. This is her last night or her last meeting here at the city of Wyoming. She's moving on to a bigger city. So we thank you for all your service here. It's been a year and a half?
A little over a year and a half.
Okay, time goes fast, doesn't it? So we wish you the best, and I know you're going to do a great job.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. All right, so with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Anybody else? Second? Second? All right, we'll stay in session then. Anybody? Anybody?
I'm giving you the opportunity.
But I'm giving you the opportunity.
Well, I guess I'll have to second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.